The chapel falls silent. Not the respectful quiet of mourning, the shocked hush of accusation. My 3-year-old son Jacob's finger stays extended, pointing directly at Victoria Hartwell in her designer black dress, her perfect widow's veil, her diamond-studded grief. Bad lady, Jacob says again louder. Hurt Mr. Thomas. 200 heads turn toward me. The maid who shouldn't be here. The woman who wasn't invited but came anyway because someone had to say something. Victoria's face, porcelain, photogenic, arranged in practiced sorrow, cracks just slightly. Get that child out of here, she hisses. But Thomas Hartwell's sister stands up. His brother stands up. His business partner stands up. And they look at Victoria like they're seeing her for the first time. What did your son mean? Thomas's sister asks me. I clutch Jacob closer. My hands shake. This could destroy us. This could ruin everything I've worked for. But I've been silent before. I stayed quiet when Thomas Hartwell started losing weight, when his hands began trembling, when he told me in his final lucid moments, Grace, something's wrong. Help me. Not this time. He means, I say clearly, that Victoria Hartwell murdered her husband. 8 months earlier, the Hartwell penthouse occupies the entire 42nd floor of Manhattan's newest luxury tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Italian marble. Art worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. I arrive for my interview in my best clothes, Jacob's hand tucked in mine. The agency promised childcare flexibility. I need this job. Single mothers with no degree don't get many chances. Victoria Hartwell interviews me herself. 32, blonde, beautiful in that calculated way that requires personal trainers and monthly procedures. She married Thomas Hartwell 5 years ago, him 53, her 27. His third marriage. Her first trophy position. Your son, she says, eyeing Jacob. He won't be disruptive. He's very quiet, ma'am. I have backup childcare, but occasionally, fine. She waves dismissively. Thomas works from home now. His health issues. He could be difficult. Paranoid. You'll meet patients. What kind of health issues? Early onset dementia. She says it with practiced sadness. He's declined rapidly. Some days he doesn't recognize me. The doctors say it's progressive. Something flickers in her expression. Something that doesn't match her words. But I need this job. I need the salary she's offering. Twice what I made at my last position. I need the stability for Jacob. When can I start? I ask. Thomas Hartwell isn't what I expect. He's thin. God, really. With trembling hands and eyes that sometimes drift. But when they focus, they're sharp. Intelligent. Aware. Your Grace, he says on my first day. Victoria said you have a son. Jacob. He's 3. I had a daughter. His voice catches. Sarah. She died. 10 years ago. Cancer. I'm so sorry. He studies me. Are you? Most people just say the words. I lost someone too, I tell him. My daughter Maya. Medical negligence. Understanding passes between us. The kinship of grief. Then you know, he says, what it means to trust doctors and be wrong. The routine establishes quickly. Breakfast at 7. Thomas picks at food, his hands shaking too much to hold utensils steadily. Victoria eats nothing, citing cleanses and wellness protocols. You need to eat, darling, she says, pushing supplements toward Thomas. Green capsules, blue tablets, a protein shake she makes personally. Dr. Morrison says nutrition is crucial for cognitive function. Thomas takes them obediently. By 8:30, he's exhausted. I clean while he sleeps. Victoria goes to yoga, to lunch, to whatever activities wealthy wives pursue. She's gone most days until evening. Jacob plays quietly in the corner I've made for him. Toys, books, his blanket from home. He watches everything with those solemn dark eyes that have always seemed older than his years. On day 4, Thomas wakes confused. Where's Sarah? He asks, distressed. Where's my daughter? Mr. Hartwell, Sarah passed away, I say gently. 10 years ago. You told me about her. His face crumples. I forgot. How could I forget Sarah? Victoria sweeps in, all concern. It's the disease, darling. Dr. Morrison explained this. The memory loss will get worse. But after she leaves, Thomas grabs my arm. His grip is surprisingly strong. I didn't forget, he whispers. I was confused when I woke. But I remember Sarah. I remember everything. Then why? Because Victoria wants everyone to think I'm losing my mind. His eyes are crystal clear. And I'm starting to wonder if I am. Because I can't figure out why I feel this way. Why I can't think straight some days. Why my body won't cooperate. He releases me. Promise me something, Grace. If something happens to me, if I die, don't let everyone believe it was just dementia. Promise you'll ask questions. Mr. Hartwell, promise. I promise, I whisper. Jacob doesn't like Victoria. He won't stay in a room with her. When she enters, he hides behind me or retreats to his corner. His usual friendliness vanishes around her. Your son is strange, Victoria comments. Is he delayed? He's cautious around new people, I reply carefully. He stares at me. It's unsettling. Children see things adults miss. I learned that with Maya. She knew when doctors weren't being honest, would grip my hand tighter, turn her face away. I start watching Jacob watch Victoria, and I start noticing patterns. Thomas is worst after Victoria's personally prepared meals, after the supplements she administers, after the protein shakes she makes in the blender, away from anyone else's eyes. He's bitter on days when she's gone all day, when he eats simple foods I prepare, when he skips the supplements because he forgets. On those days, his hands shake less. His eyes focus more clearly. His words come easier. I feel human today, he tells me during one of Victoria's spa days. Almost like myself. What's different? He thinks. Victoria didn't make my shake this morning. I told her I wasn't hungry. We look at each other. That's probably coincidence, I say. Probably, he agrees. But neither of us believes it. I start documenting. Notes on my phone. Dates and times. What Thomas eats. When Victoria prepares food. How he feels afterward. I photograph the supplement bottles in the medicine cabinet. All unmarked or with labels partially torn off. I research the symptoms of various poisons. I search for cases of wives murdering wealthy husbands. I find too many. And I remember my promise. On week 6, Jacob speaks to Thomas for the first time. Mr. Thomas sad? He asks, approaching where Thomas sits by the window. Thomas smiles weakly. A little, buddy. Bad lady makes you sad. Thomas glances at me, startled. What bad lady? Jacob points toward Victoria's closed bedroom door. That lady. She puts bad things in food. My blood freezes. Jacob, that's, I start. But Thomas interrupts. What kind of bad things? Yucky things. From bottles. When Grace not looking. Jacob's face scrunches in concentration. Makes Mr. Thomas sick. Sweetheart, you can't say things like that. I say, my heart hammering. But Thomas is staring at Jacob with something like hope. Like validation. Children don't lie about what they see, he says quietly. That night, I can't sleep. Jacob saw something. Something I've suspected but couldn't prove. Something that sounds insane when said aloud. Victoria Hartwell is poisoning her husband. But why? Money? Freedom? Both. I research Thomas's finances. His company. His will. Everything I can find in public records. Thomas is worth $400 million. His will, filed before his marriage to Victoria, leaves everything to charity and his late daughter's foundation. Unless he revises it. Unless dementia makes him incompetent to manage his affairs. Unless Victoria, as his devoted wife and medical proxy, gains control. Unless he dies while she's still his spouse. I search for Thomas's lawyer's contact information. I draft an email I'm too afraid to send. And I watch the sunrise from our tiny studio apartment. Jacob sleeping peacefully, unaware that his simple observation has set something irreversible into motion. Because I have to choose. Stay silent, keep my job, protect my son from the risk of being wrong. Or speak up. Ask questions. Demand answers that powerful people don't want to give. The choice is only difficult because I've made the wrong one before. Not this time. The moment Thomas Hartwell collapses, I know I'm too late. It's week 9. Victoria is at a charity luncheon. Thomas and I are reviewing old photos. He likes remembering Sarah on good days. Grace, he says suddenly. I feel strange. Then he's on the floor, convulsing. His eyes rolling back. Foam at his lips. I call 911. I hold his hand. I watch the ambulance take him away. Victoria meets us at the hospital, all perfect panic. What happened? Was he alone? Did he take his medications? The doctors stabilize Thomas. Run tests. Exchange meaningful looks. It appears to be a severe reaction. The attending physician tells Victoria, possibly related to his dementia medications interacting with his declining liver function. Will he recover? Victoria's voice breaks beautifully. It's too early to say. I stand in the corner, holding Jacob, invisible. Just the maid. just the help who happened to be there. But I saw Victoria's face when the doctor said, liver function. I saw relief. Thomas lingers for 3 days in ICU. Victoria performs grief magnificently. She holds his hand for photographers. She releases statements about their beautiful love. She makes decisions about his care with tearful authority. I visit during off hours when families are permitted. The nurses know me, the devoted employee who brought Mr. Hartwell his favorite books, who cared so deeply. I sit beside his bed while machines breathe for him. I'm sorry, I whisper. I saw it, but I didn't act fast enough. I was afraid. His hand twitches. Once. Deliberately. His eyes open. Just slightly. Just enough. He can hear me. I won't let her win, I promise. I don't know how yet, but I won't. The hand squeezes mine. Then goes still. Thomas Hartwell dies at 4:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Victoria is there, perfectly composed, beautifully devastated. The death certificate lists complications from early onset dementia and organ failure. No autopsy. No investigation. Just a wealthy man with known health issues who succumbed to his condition. I receive a severance check and a dismissal notice the same day. We no longer require household staff. Victoria's assistant explains. Mrs. Hartwell is selling the penthouse. Too many memories. I pack my things. I collect Jacob. I leave the beautiful apartment for the last time. On the way out, I pass Victoria in the hallway. She's on the phone, her voice low. Yes, transfer everything to the primary account. The lawyers said the will contest won't hold up. Dementia patients aren't competent to revise documents. It all comes to me. She sees me, smiles. Grace, thank you for your service. I'll provide an excellent reference. The smile is victorious, untouchable. I don't respond. I take Jacob's hand and leave. But I don't stay silent. I go to the police. I bring my documentation. I explain what Jacob saw, what I suspect, what Thomas told me. The detective listens patiently, takes notes, explains gently why none of it matters. He had documented dementia. You're not a medical professional. A 3-year-old's testimony isn't admissible. And without an autopsy, Order 1. I plead. Test for poison. Please. Mrs. Hartwell is his legal next of kin. Only she can authorize exhumation or additional testing. And without evidence suggesting foul play. I'm giving you evidence. You're giving me suspicions. His voice is kind but firm. I believe you saw something that concerned you. But wealthy people die of natural causes too. Sometimes paranoia is just paranoia. I leave the police station shaking with rage and helplessness. The system protects Victoria Hartwell. Her money. Her position. Her credentials as the grieving widow. Who am I? Just the maid who got too attached. Who saw conspiracies in a tragic decline. Whose son made up stories because children have active imaginations. Just to help. I attend the funeral because I have to. Victoria doesn't want me there. Her assistant makes that clear. But it's a public service. She can't ban me without looking vindictive. So I sit in the back row, Jacob on my lap, and watch 200 people mourn a man they barely knew. They praise his business acumen, his philanthropy, his beautiful young widow who supported him through his tragic decline. They mention dementia like a curse from God, random, cruel, inevitable. No one mentions that healthy 53-year-old men don't usually develop rapid onset dementia. That his symptoms didn't match typical patterns. That he told people something was wrong. No one asks questions. Victoria speaks last. Her eulogy is perfect. She describes Thomas's deterioration with clinical precision. The confusion, the paranoia, the personality changes that made him not himself. He thought people were trying to hurt him, she says, voice breaking. Even me. Especially me, toward the end. That's what this disease does. It steals the person you love and replaces them with fear. The congregation murmurs sympathy. I feel Jacob stiffen against me. Mama, he whispers. She lying. Show baby. But she lying. Mr. Thomas not crazy. He was right. His voice carries. Just slightly. A few heads turn. Victoria's eyes find mine across the chapel. Warning. The service concludes. Everyone files past the casket. Past Victoria accepting condolences. Past the exit into sunshine and relief that tragedy touched someone else. I don't leave. I walk down the aisle, Jacob's hand in mine, toward the front where Victoria holds court among Thomas's family and business associates. My heart pounds. My mouth is dry. Every instinct screams to run. But I hear Thomas's voice, Promise me. Promise you'll ask questions. I reach the front. Victoria turns, her smile diamond hard. Grace, how kind of you to come. I need to say something. This isn't the time. Mr. Thomas was right. My voice shakes, but carries. He wasn't paranoid. He wasn't confused. Someone was hurting him. The murmurs stop. Everyone watches. Grace, Victoria says carefully. I know how difficult this has been. Thomas cared for you. But his illness made him believe things that weren't. Bad lady. Jacob interrupts. His small voice cuts through excuses like a blade. He points at Victoria. You hurt Mr. Thomas. You put bad things in his food. The silence is absolute. He's 3 years old. Victoria laughs. It sounds wrong. Children say anything. He saw you. I say. He told me weeks ago. He saw you putting something in Thomas's food when I wasn't watching. I thought he was imagining things. But children don't lie about what they see. Thomas's sister steps forward. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying Thomas Hartwell didn't die of dementia. I'm saying his wife poisoned him. And I can prove it. This is a bluff. I can't prove anything. But I'm gambling that Victoria doesn't know that. That panic makes people careless. Victoria's face transforms, composed mask shattering into rage. You have no proof. You have nothing. You're a disgruntled employee making ridiculous accusations. Then you won't mind an autopsy. I already authorized cremation. It's scheduled for this afternoon. Then we'll need to stop it. Thomas's sister pulls out her phone. If there's any question about my brother's death, we're getting answers. There's no question, Victoria snaps. Just a delusional woman who documented everything. I interrupt. Dates, times, symptoms. What he ate. How he felt. When you prepared his food personally. I have photos of unmarked medication bottles. I have recordings of Thomas saying he felt better on days you weren't there. This is partially true. The documentation is real. The recordings don't exist. But Victoria doesn't know that. This is harassment, she hisses. I'll sue you for everything. Sue me. I meet her eyes. I have nothing. But Thomas's family has resources. And they're starting to ask questions. That's all I wanted. For someone to ask. Thomas's brother speaks. Victoria, if there's nothing to hide, an autopsy won't hurt. It's disrespectful. So is murdering our brother. His voice is ice. The chapel erupts. Thomas's family closing ranks, demanding answers. Victoria's protestations growing shriller. Funeral attendees pulling out phones to record. In the chaos, Jacob tugs my sleeve. You did it, Mama, he whispers. You helped Mr. Thomas. I don't know if I did. I don't know if anything will come of this. I don't know if truth is enough against money and power. But I asked the question. Finally. Loudly. In front of witnesses who matter. Not silence. Not this time. The autopsy takes 3 weeks. 3 weeks of living in my studio apartment. Jumping at every sound. Terrified Victoria will sue me into oblivion. 3 weeks of Jacob asking when Mr. Thomas will be okay. And me explaining that sometimes being okay means justice, not resurrection. 3 weeks of wondering if I've destroyed us for nothing. Thomas's sister calls me on a Wednesday afternoon. Grace? It's Margaret. The toxicology report came back. I can't breathe. And thallium. Significant levels. Consistent with chronic poisoning over several months. The world tilts. What is rat poison? Odorless, tasteless, causes symptoms that mimic neurological disease. In small doses over time, it's almost impossible to detect without specifically testing for it. Her voice breaks. You were right. That woman murdered my brother. I slide down the wall, phone pressed to my ear, tears streaming. The police are arresting Victoria this afternoon, Margaret continues. They searched the penthouse. Found thallium-based rat poison in her private bathroom. Found Thomas's medical records showing liver damage consistent with poisoning. Found evidence she researched heavy metal poisoning and dementia symptoms. She kept evidence? Arrogant people do stupid things. She thought she'd gotten away with it. Thought no one would question the grieving widow. Margaret's voice hardens. She thought wrong. Because of Jacob, I whisper. Because a 3-year-old told the truth. Because you listened to him. And you had the courage to speak up when everyone told you not to. Victoria Hartwell's arrest becomes national news. Black Widow case. Socialite charged with murdering tech mobile husband. The media dissects everything. The age gap marriage. Thomas's wealth. Victoria's shopping habits and Instagram posts. Her Google search history, undetectable poisons, symptoms of dementia. How long until life insurance pays out? She thought she was clever. She was just careful enough to fool people who didn't want to see. The trial takes 8 months. I testify about Thomas's lucid moments, about Victoria's control over his food and medication, about Jacob's observation and my documentation. A 3-year-old's testimony isn't technically admissible. The prosecutor explains before I take the stand. But yours is. And it establishes pattern. Someone was noticing what Victoria didn't realize anyone saw. The defense tries to discredit me, paint me as an obsessed employee who misinterpreted a tragic illness, suggest I manipulated a child's words. But the physical evidence doesn't lie. The thallium in Thomas's tissues, the rat poison in Victoria's possession, the search history, the financial motive, $400 million. The jury deliberates for 9 hours. Guilty. First-degree murder. Victoria Hartwell is sentenced to life without parole. I'm in the courtroom when they read the verdict. I watch her face, still beautiful, still composed, still unable to believe the world didn't trust her simply because she was wealthy and charming. She looks at me once. Just once. I hold my son's hand and meet her gaze. Thomas was right. Someone was trying to hurt him, and someone finally believed him. Thomas's will stands as originally written. $400 million to charity and his daughter's cancer foundation. But Margaret establishes something else, the Thomas Hartwell Truth Fund, for investigating suspected medical abuse when authorities want, for advocating for victims who can't advocate for themselves. She offers me a position, Director of Victim Services. I'm not qualified, I protest. I'm a maid with no degree. You're someone who trusted herself when everyone said not to, who fought for someone who couldn't fight for himself. That's the only qualification that matters. I accept. The Truth Fund opens offices in Manhattan 3 months after Victoria's sentencing. We're small, for lawyers, 2 investigators, 3 victim advocates. We take calls from families who suspect medical murder but can't prove it. From employees who witness abuse but fear speaking up. From children like Jacob who see truth adults miss. We investigate. We document. We ask questions until we find answers. We believe people. Our first major case is a nursing home in Queens. An aide calls our hotline, says residents are dying faster than normal, says medications are being mishandled, says management silences complaints. I visit personally. I talk to the aide, a young woman named Rosa who reminds me of myself. Terrified, uncertain, but certain something's wrong. I don't have proof, she says. Just a feeling. Feelings matter. I tell her. They're how we know to look closer. We investigate. We find evidence. We alert authorities. 3 staff members are arrested for medication theft and patient neglect. For residents who would have died survive. Rosa doesn't lose her job. We make sure of that. You saved them, she tells me, crying. You saved them, I correct. You trusted yourself enough to call. Jacob starts pre-K at a Montessori school near our new apartment. Bigger now, 2 bedrooms, in a safe neighborhood. We can afford it. The Truth Fund pays well. Margaret insisted. Thomas would have wanted you comfortable, she said. He was always generous with people who cared. Jacob doesn't talk about bad ladies anymore, but he's still observant, still notices things, still tells me when something feels wrong. I'm teaching him that feeling is valid, that noticing matters, that speaking up is worth the fear. On his 4th birthday, we visit Thomas's grave. I bring flowers. Jacob brings a drawing, Thomas and him, stick figures holding hands under a sun. Is Mr. Thomas happy now? Jacob asks. I think so, baby. I think he's at peace knowing the truth came out. Because of us. Because of you. You saw what no one else did. You were brave enough to say it. Jacob considers this. I'm glad I said it, Mama. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. I still grieve Maya. That wound never fully heals. But I'm learning to transform grief into purpose. To channel loss into protection for others. The work is hard. We don't win every case. Sometimes we arrive too late. Sometimes evidence isn't enough. Sometimes the system still protects the powerful. But sometimes, more often than I expected, truth wins. We've handled 37 cases in our first year. Prevented 5 deaths. Exposed abuse in 3 medical facilities. Helped families get justice when authorities said there was none. Small victories. Lives saved. Questions asked. It's not everything, but it's something. Margaret becomes a friend. She visits our office, attends Jacob's school events, joins us for Sunday dinners. We're bound by Thomas, by loss and justice, and the strange gift of tragedy that connects people. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd stayed silent? She asks one evening. Every day, I admit. It would have been easier. But Victoria would have gotten away with murder. Yes, and I'd have watched another person die while staying in my place. Margaret squeezes my hand. Thank you for not staying in your place. On the 1-year anniversary of Thomas's death, the Truth Fund hosts a memorial service. We invite everyone who loved him, everyone we've helped, everyone who believes that asking questions matters more than maintaining comfortable silence. I speak about Thomas, not the declining dementia patient Victoria wanted everyone to remember, but the sharp, kind, aware man who knew something was wrong and begged someone to listen. He asked me to promise, I tell the gathering, to promise that if something happened to him, I wouldn't let everyone believe the easy answer, that I'd ask questions. It's the hardest promise I ever kept, because asking questions means risking everything. Your job, your reputation, your safety. It means people calling you crazy, paranoid, obsessed. But staying silent when something's wrong? That costs more. Jacob sits in the front row, solemn and attentive. 4 years old now. The child whose observation started everything. After the service, people approach me. Families we've helped. Victims who found courage to speak. Workers who reported abuse despite fear. They fake me. Tell me I'm brave. Call me a hero. I redirect them every time. I just ask questions. That's all. But I'm learning that sometimes that's everything. The media still asks for interviews. Wants the story of the maid who solved a murder. I decline most. But I accept some. Because the story needs telling. Not for fame. For education. What made you suspicious? Reporters asked. He got better when she wasn't there. Children see patterns adults miss. And I'd been silent about medical neglect before. I refuse to do it again. What do you want people to know? That your observations matter. That questioning authority isn't disrespect. That the smallest voice in the room might be seeing what everyone else refuses to notice. What would you say to Victoria Hartwell? I think about this. About the woman who killed her husband slowly, who thought money and beauty meant she'd never be caught. I'd say that underestimating people is dangerous. That maids and children and anyone you dismiss as unimportant, we see things you don't. And sometimes, we're brave enough to speak. Jacob and I still live simply. We don't need luxury. We need safety, stability, purpose. We need to wake up knowing that silence isn't our currency anymore. On difficult days, when cases go wrong, when justice feels impossible, when I question everything, I reread Thomas's promise in my journal. Promise me you'll ask questions. I did. I am. I will. 5 years after Thomas Hartwell's death, the Truth Fund has expanded to 6 states. We've investigated 300 cases, prevented 32 deaths, changed hospital protocols, influenced legislation, trained medical staff about recognizing coercion and abuse. We've saved lives by asking questions authority figures didn't want asked. We've proven that truth matters more than position, that credentials don't equal righteousness, that the overlooked ones often see what the powerful miss. Jacob is 8 now, still observant, still honest, still learning that noticing things is a gift, not a burden. Will you do this job forever, Mama? He asks. As long as people need someone to ask questions, I say. Then forever, he concludes. Probably. Because the world will always need people who refuse to stay silent, who trust their instincts, who believe that justice matters more than comfort. I couldn't save Maya. But because of what I learned from losing her, I've saved others. That's not redemption, but it's purpose. And sometimes purpose is enough to transform grief into something that serves the living. If this story touched you, if you've ever felt invisible, ever questioned authority, ever wondered if your voice matters, know this. It does. Your observations are valid. Your suspicions deserve investigation. Your questions deserve answers. Don't let credentials intimidate you into silence. Don't let power convince you that you're wrong. Don't let fear of being mistaken keep you from asking when something feels off. Be the person who notices, who speaks, who refuses to accept easy answers when truth demands difficulty. Be the one who asks questions when everyone else stays silent. Because sometimes, more often than you'd think, the smallest voice is the one telling the biggest truth. And that voice might save a life. Thomas Hartwell didn't survive, but his truth did. Because a 3-year-old pointed and said, "Bad lady," and his mother decided that was enough to ask questions. Simple observation. Profound courage. Justice served. That's what happens when we refuse to stay in our places. That's what happens when we decide truth matters more than fear. That's everything.